0 o'clock to 1:30, New Year's Eve. December 31st, 2025. Northridge, Los Angeles. The clock showed 11:30 p.m. Keith Porter, a 43-year-old father, stood in the courtyard of his apartment complex. In his hands, a newly purchased AR-15 style rifle. He was firing into the sky. Bullets instead of fireworks, a tradition that has persisted for decades in certain Los Angeles neighborhoods. Dangerous, illegal. But that night, nothing else on those streets was normal anyway. In the same apartment complex, a few doors down, an ICE agent was watching television. He heard the gunshots. He looked out the window. He went outside. Witnesses say the agent never identified himself. The family's attorney claims the agent went back to his apartment, changed into his tactical gear, and came back out. A minute later, Keith Porter lay on the ground. He was dead. His two daughters lost their father. Ages 9 and 20, his mother, Franchola Armstrong, spoke at the Los Angeles City Council. "My son had a wonderful soul. His heart was enormous. He didn't even get to pop the champagne. He didn't get to enter the new year. His life was snatched from us." The Department of Homeland Security issued a statement. The agent bravely responded to an active shooter situation. The family doesn't believe it. Black Lives Matter Los Angeles doesn't believe it. The neighbors don't believe it. And this was only the beginning. La 1:30, las 4 1 week later, January 7th, 2026. Minneapolis, Minnesota. Renee Good, a 37-year-old mother, poet, and wife of a military veteran, was driving home after dropping her son off at school. Her wife Becca sat beside her. In a South Side neighborhood, ICE agents were conducting an operation. Good stopped her vehicle in the middle of the road. Her wife Becca would later say in a statement, "We stopped to support our neighbors. We had whistles. They had guns." In Minneapolis and many American cities, activists trying to protect immigrants blow whistles to alert communities about ICE operations. A warning system, an act of solidarity. ICE agent Jonathan Ross approached the vehicle. He had his phone in his hand. He was recording. Video footage shows Good was calm, her hands visible. "That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you," she says. Another agent yells, "Get out of the car. Get out of the fucking car." Good puts the car in reverse, then forward. Her wife Becca yells from outside, "Drive, baby, drive." Ross is still recording with his phone. One hand holding a phone, the other hand pulling a gun. A fires. Renee Good dies behind the wheel. The car careens out of control and stops in front of a house. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey called the self-defense argument garbage. University of South Carolina. Criminology professor Jeff Alpart said, "If you view this woman as a threat, you don't walk around with a cell phone in one hand. You don't casually walk around this supposed weapon." DHS Secretary Kristi Noem labeled Good a domestic terrorist. In Minneapolis, in the city where George Floyd was killed in 2020, protests erupted immediately. And in Los Angeles, these two deaths lit a fuse that had actually started burning months earlier. 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock to understand this story. We need to go back 6 months. June 6, 2025. Los Angeles, Fashion District. A clothing factory called Ambience Apparel. ICE agents raided the facility to detain workers. Crowds gathered. Protesters came face to face with federal agents. And then everything spiraled out of control. The first night, protesters covered the federal building with graffiti. "ICE out of LA. Trump out of LA." Police used tear gas and rubber bullets. The second day, hundreds gathered outside a Home Depot in Paramount. Rumors had spread that ICE was planning a raid there. Sheriffs deployed tear gas and flashbangs. In Compton, a car was set on fire. Trump wrote on social media, "Radical left protests, instigators and often paid troublemakers." On June 6th at 6 p.m., Trump signed a presidential memorandum. 2,000 National Guard troops would be deployed to Los Angeles. Mayor Karen Bass objected. These raids, and now sending troops to Los Angeles, is an intentional effort to sow chaos. This city is a tinderbox. Governor Gavin Newsom objected. "We didn't have a problem until Trump got involved. But the soldiers came. 300 National Guard troops took positions outside federal buildings at 4 a.m. on June 7th. On June Northridge, the Pentagon activated 700 Marines from 29 Palms to Los Angeles. In America's second-largest city, military units were patrolling civilian streets. This went down in history as the first time since 1965 that federal military force was deployed to a state without a governor's consent. Protests spread: San Francisco, New York, Chicago, Dallas, Seattle. The Apple Store was looted. The Adidas store, jewelry shops, pharmacies. LAPD arrested 50 people. 5 police officers were injured. Trump gave a speech at Fort Bragg. He described protesters as both animals and a foreign enemy. "We will liberate Los Angeles and make it clean and safe again." On June 10th, a curfew was declared in downtown Los Angeles. Union leader David Weta was arrested for conspiracy to impede a federal operation. He was hospitalized with facial injuries, later released on $50,000 bail. On September 3rd, federal judge Charles Breyer declared the military deployment illegal. There was no rebellion, nor was civilian law enforcement unable to respond to the protests and enforce the law. On December 31st, 2025, following court losses, Trump withdrew the National Guard from Los Angeles, but ICE operations never stopped. And now, in January 2026, with 2 deaths, everything is rigged. 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock, January 10th, 2026. Saturday, downtown Los Angeles. Thousands gathered at Pershing Square. I see. Out for good. Protesters carried signs. Justice for Renee. Injustice demands resistance. Trump must go. On Alameda Street, in front of federal buildings, police helicopters circled overhead. Their searchlights illuminated the crowd. At 6:15 p.m., LAPD riot police issued a dispersal order. A small group of protesters refused to move. A CBS Los Angeles reporter was there. Protesters were chanting ICE out of Some carried upside down American flags. Police detained 1 person for battery on a police officer. But this wasn't just Los Angeles. That same day, over 1,000 ICE out for good events were held across America. New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Austin, Boston, Denver, Seattle, Portland. The ACLU issued a statement. For a full year, Trump's masked agents have been abducting people off the streets, raiding schools, libraries, and churches. As ICE is unnecessary, reckless, and escalatory deployment goes unchecked, the killing of civilians will only continue. In Minneapolis, protesters gathered outside a hotel where they believed ICE agents were staying. They banged pots and pans, blew whistles, shined lights at windows through the night. Minnesota State Police arrived in riot gear. An unlawful assembly was declared. Arrests were made. In Portland, 1 day after the ICE shooting, 2 more people were shot by federal agents. DHS identified the 2 people shot as suspected members of the Tierra de Aragua gang and undocumented immigrants. But Renee Good wasn't an immigrant. Keith Porter wasn't an immigrant. Both were American citizens, and both were killed by ICE agents. 11 o'clock to 14 o'clock in downtown Los Angeles. Historic Olvera Street. Valerie Hunley's family has operated Casa California for 58 years. She told Spectrum News, "It's been very light since the fires happened. And then we had the protests that really killed us. A lot of people came here and did some damage on the street. Business dropped 40 to 60%. We're trying to see if we can actually still survive here," she said. Olvera Street isn't alone. Little Tokyo. Fashion District. Arts District. The June protests and ICE raids devastated downtown businesses. La County Supervisor Hilda Solis launched a grant program for small businesses. These raids impacted Olvera Street, Little Tokyo, all those areas that were heavily raided. In the first round, $1.53 million was distributed to 367 businesses. But it wasn't enough. In the second round, another $3.33 million went to over 650 businesses. Research shows the Hispanic population was hit hardest. Nearly 500,000 people lost their jobs. Restaurants, cleaning companies, construction firms, textile factories. The Vera Institute published a report. ICE's brutal. Military-style tactics are making communities less safe. Immigrant communities are afraid to report crimes or seek help. Mental health clinics reported canceled appointments. Shelters said refugees were fleeing. Fear paralyzed the economy. And tourism, it had already collapsed. Los Angeles experienced a 9% drop in international tourists in 2025. Visitors from Canada dropped 38%. Vendors on Hollywood Boulevard say business is down 70 to 80%. The reasons: fires, ICE raids, protests, safety perceptions. The American Hotel and Lodging Association released a report. Los Angeles lags behind every other major U.S. city in post-pandemic recovery. The city experienced a $14.3 million shortfall in tourist tax revenue. And the budget deficit, nearly $1 billion. Los Angeles is paying the economic price of the war in its own streets. 14 o'clock to 17 o'clock in this story. There are two different realities. The first narrative, the Trump administration's narrative. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Renee Good was a domestic terrorist who attempted to run over our officers with her vehicle. The agent used self-defense to protect his life and the lives of others. Vice President J.D. Vance shared video captured from the agent's phone. Watch this. Ascarda Cities. Many of you have been told this law enforcement officer wasn't hit by a car, wasn't being harassed, and murdered an innocent woman. Trump labeled protesters insurrectionists and far-left rioters. The second narrative, the narrative of families, witnesses, and experts. Keith Porter's cousin Jane Tyler. If I could say anything to the ICE agent, it's that you're a murderer. You stole my cousin from me. You stole their father from them. You stole a black man off the planet that God ordained to live and thrive. University of Wisconsin Law. Professor John P. Gross. If you are an officer who views this woman as a threat, you don't have one hand on a cell phone. You don't walk around this supposed weapon casually. CNN analysis. Despite DHS claims that Good was blocking ICE agents, multiple cars, including Roz's vehicle, were able to drive around Good's car before the shooting. In Minneapolis, Trebor Heidkamp, who lives near the scene. I saw somebody die. I've had a few hard nights of sleep. Renee Good's former neighbor Jennifer told CNN, I would hear laughter spilling out of her house. But the laughter has stopped, and the narratives are at war. On social media, on news channels, in courtrooms, one side says order, the other side says justice. And Los Angeles remains the battlefield where these two narratives collide. 17 o'clock to 1930 Los Angeles has seen this film before. The Watts riots, 34 dead. The Rodney King riots, 63 dead. George Floyd protests, curfews, National Guard deployment, and now 2025 to 2026. The ICE protests, every time, the same questions were asked. When does force become excessive? When does the state become the enemy of its own people? Where is the line between order and freedom? Los Angeles is one of America's greatest paradoxes. Hollywood's glitter, Beverly Hills wealth, Venice beaches, freedom, but also 4,000 homeless on Skid Row. 16,000 homes turned to ash in the fires. Neighborhoods where ICE agents patrolled the streets. The city is divided within itself, a municipality that declared itself a sanctuary city, but federal agents raiding factories, restaurants, apartment complexes. Tension between local police and federal agents. War between the mayor and the president. Lawsuits between the governor and the White House. Los Angeles is America's microcosm. All contradictions concentrate here. All tensions explode here, and all questions remain unanswered here. 1932, 2134, immigrant communities, daily life has changed, grocery shopping, dropping kids at school, going to work. An ICE vehicle could appear at any moment. Any knock on the door could be a raid. A Rand Institute study. Hispanic individuals are less likely to report crimes or seek help under increased immigration enforcement. This makes the entire city less safe. Witnesses don't talk. Victims don't call the police. Communities turn inward. The Vara Institute, LAPD, spent approximately $30 million on its aggressive response to protests. Excessive law enforcement spending means fewer resources for solutions that actually keep communities safe. The Los Angeles District. Attorney's Office said ICE arrests at courthouses are disrupting the justice system. Associate Chief Judge Sergio Santapia. Segundo, these intimidating and unnecessary displays undermine public trust in the justice system, deter people from seeking justice. Fear has become a mechanism of control, but it has also ignited resistance. Activists blowing whistles, WhatsApp groups alerting about raids, lawyers distributing Know Your Rights pamphlets. Immigrant communities have woven their own protection networks. The ACLU has filed multiple lawsuits. De Vasquez, Perdomo v. Noem. Case proceeds with support from Los Angeles, Pasadena, Santa Monica, Culver City, West Hollywood, and other cities. The lawsuit alleges unconstitutional mass arrests based on ethnicity, without reasonable suspicion or probable cause. Unions organized. The arrest of SEIU Service Employees International Union leader David Huerta mobilized the labor movement. ICE's brutal tactics have no place in our communities, SEIU wrote. Churches offered sanctuary. Schools declared themselves safe zones. Municipalities passed resolutions prohibiting local police from cooperating with ICE. This is a quiet resistance. Behind the noisy protests, thousands of small actions. A lawyer's phone number. A neighbor's warning. An employer refusing to open the door. Los Angeles is a battlefield, but also a laboratory of resistance. In the Keith Porter case, LAPD is conducting the investigation. FBI, Department of Justice, and Homeland Security investigations are also involved. When a federal agent is involved, the protocol is different. LAPD said it has not yet spoken with the ICE agent due to protocol for how deadly force investigations are conducted when they involve federal law enforcement officers. The agent's identity has not been released. No arrest. No charges. Black Lives Matter, Los Angeles. In this city, LAPD, officer-involved shootings increased by 70% last year, and there's been very little accountability in any of those cases. In Minneapolis, Hennepin County Prosecutor Mary Moriarty asked the public for evidence and recordings. Agent Jonathan Ross has been identified, a 20-year veteran and Iraq War vet. 6 months ago, he was dragged by a vehicle while attempting an arrest in Bloomington, Minnesota. Now, he's accused of killing Renee Good. But accountability for federal agents has historically been difficult. Qualified immunity can protect federal agents from civil lawsuits, and the Trump administration appears determined to defend its agents. Noem. The officer followed his training. Justice seems like a distant possibility, but the families aren't giving up. The protesters aren't giving up, and the war continues in the streets of Los Angeles. 2026 is just beginning. In the first 10 days of January, 2 deaths, thousands of protesters, over 1,000 events, and nothing has been resolved. ICE operations continue. The Trump administration promises the largest mass deportation program in history. In Minneapolis, schools closed through the weekend. In Portland, 2 more people were shot. In Los Angeles, businesses are closing. Tourists aren't coming. The budget deficit is growing. The 2026 World Cup is coming. The 2028 Olympics are coming. Los Angeles is preparing to host the world. But the city is fighting a war within itself, between the federal government and the state government, between police and protesters, between fear and hope. Who will win this war? Order, justice, or perhaps neither. Perhaps Los Angeles will continue to live with these contradictions. Glitter and darkness side by side. Hollywood and Skid Row in the same city. ICE agents and Sanctuary City on the same streets. Keith Porter's cousin Jane Tyler wore a burgundy hoodie. On it were the words, "I hope I don't get killed for being black today." Renee Good's wife, Becca, released a statement. "I am now left to raise our son and to continue teaching him," as Renee believed that there are people building a better world for him. 2 families, 2 losses, the same question. How did this happen? And one more question. Will it happen again? In the streets of Los Angeles, the answer is being written. In every protest, in every raid, in every bullet, in every tear. And the world is watching, because Los Angeles is not just a city. It's America's mirror, with all its contradictions, with all its wounds, with all its hopes, and with all its fears.